My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. I must inform you that I do not live in this house by myself, but live here with other people. Sometimes other members of the household may have to walk through areas where I might be recording with other family members on the phone. If you hear any noise like that, please feel free to disregard. We are doing our best to get noise canceling equipment, which may at least keep you from hearing exactly what is being said. Thank you for considering. Well, I will tell y'all that the last time around, that little step I did on three of the little St. Nicholases, in the last video, I decided to do it on the other three in between videos. So I say that with what all we got here, there's just a little more to show along, and I say it's going to be a moment when we're going to try to kind of take a carve along the side here, carve along the elbows, and remove this wood that kind of comes along here to make it where it kind of comes down to just about where the little belt is, and make it so we see what this is going to become when it really just gets down to it. And so I say just this little work is making its way down to where we see just what we need or want just to see. And I tell y'all that there's just little steps here taking it further along, and that's where we got the elbows a little separated from the back of the belt. And for a little other notion, I say kind of put in a little place where we mark out the little cuts to make it where Saint Nick is going to have just these little places in his back where we're going to remove a little wood along here. And this probably was one thing we might have should have done before we did too much else we're doing. So we kind of got to take these little steps, make them so they're coming in just right, and how we come up with a little Santa Claus that just looks like he's really, really, really in the state he's in for some good carving, ethical time and effort. I say just little rules we have that we follow to a step, and so it just comes down to where these little lines going to have little special meanings. I say, goodness, little Santa Claus. Oh, I say, like, oh, I tell you, like old Dr. Elmo sings, like, please, Senior Santa Claus. It's just kind of making it so it's going to be just like that. We just did it with a walnut one. Let's do the same couple of steps with this one from African mahogany. Kind of take it where it's going to be level, just to do what we ask for it to be. Come down to where we see just a little image come out of the belt, and put it on for just a little scrapping work, and kind of remove all the little extra shavings and chips to come down to what we see. A little Alpine St. Nick here and there is just going to be kindly playing a game to all our thoughts and deeds and all the ways of knowing what a will is, and that of all things, kind of like shouldering down to what else we see when we make out the poor, pitiful little figure of a Santa Claus statue out of wood. And I say, there was the time when in the land of Myra, which is now Turkey, they used to have the bones of Father Nicholas there in a monument where people would come up there to worship and receive healing and things. And there came a time when those who took over the land and made it into Turkey sort of drove the Christians out of the land, and it became a Muslim land. And that was when they took the bones of Saint Nick out with them, and I forget where they put them instead. It was probably in some other part of Europe, but I'd have to look it up again just to make sure I know, because I say that it was all this little interesting ways we have of seeing how things go. And I know in that little Turkish land, you probably know that there was that book by Demi called The Hungry Coat. And it was about a certain man who he kind of came to work. He kind of, or I'd say, came to be somebody's guest for dinner. And he was all smelly from the outdoors, and they didn't like it. He was not very well dressed, but he came back later and he was very well dressed and clean, and even wearing a fancy coat. And as he put food in the coat ate it. And the people said, wow, and they wanted him to stay. And he kind of made it clear to them that they only wanted him to stay because of his coat or because of his complexion, and how you ought to accept people for who they are, as he said, not for what they wear, not for how they look, not for how they smell, and all the things he kind of went on to state about how that there was just a little life lesson to learn in that very story. So I tell y'all that in my life, I've had some pieces of Turkish walnut wood that were left over from gun stock. They sold it at the woodcraft store years ago, and occasionally it still sells on eBay now and then, but here's how it came out. And I'd probably just mention that it was all just good little products that came to us and showed us just what things could be. Can't remember what all I carved out of that Turkish walnut, but one thing I remember for sure I carved out of it were a couple of camels. And I tell y'all, camels were common in that land, so that could probably also make it where they could probably just be a good thing to carve from that. The Turkish walnut kind of has a distinctive smell, and they say that it's kind of like an English walnut tree planted on Turkish soil, according to what I researched on the internet. Never really recalled that I've ever had any English walnut wood to work with, but I have worked with something called a Claro walnut, which is a hybrid wood. It's like a hybrid between an American walnut and an English walnut. It is something that I would say I've purchased it at the woodcraft store before when it's been there. Was a neat little wood I tried to carve with. Will say maybe a time or two I've been there and seen some Japanese walnut in stock, but probably got to the point where I just wasn't buying quite as many exotics once it came down to where I finally came down to that. And so, with a little work we have in this, we come out with the arms in the back like that. And to say a little work is going to be done sooner or later, we get a little freshened skill. We get a little certain skill that kind of takes us to the place where we lend the freedom out to those who have the need and worship a little bit. And I say that just for the time we carve things along, make little chippy scraps here, and kind of make it so we're going to carve out this center of the back, make it so the arms will kind of rest to the side, come up with a little nice little Santa Claus that kind of makes a little character to us. Oh, for a little fortune in our lives, we see great things happen. Great things happen to us. Oh, I say. It's just kind of fresh little work that comes right off the end of the vine to say that this little joy of little work we have in our hands makes us all see a good sight for us all to come and to know that when we work down to just a little bit of things, it's just going to be the time when this little work is going to see a little easiness of light in us to show how, oh, gentle work, this is just going to be when we're getting down to what we have just to make it so it's going to be a little caricature of a carving, come down to where we have a little extra to do, make out how this kind of comes along, make the elbows out so they're going to be strong and nice and easy carved, and come along to where, oh, just joys in working with wood. Oh, I say, little exotics from South America and Africa. Oh, and I say that all the places around the world where the different kinds of woods grow, you know, you can internet research about any of them and look them up. People do it these days in public on their phones, but I'm still rather old-fashioned and I still prefer a computer. So I might carry a phone with me and go to a computer app to do some modern-day business things that can't really be done on a computer on my phone. So I'm getting a little tied up with my words here, so to speak. It's just a little ways that I'm getting a little out of routine with a thing or two and getting a little bit where I'm just not seeing things the way I was, and come down to where there's just a little more extra time and effort to be made in what we have. Besides, since I'm coming close, might make this middle part of the video be only about 15 minutes long, and up to where we see things, up to where we envision things. Oh, the life we put in our work, joy we put in our hands, kind of got little calluses here and there that kind of come from all this work. Dare me to take a steak knife and remove it. So, anyway, I wish you all the best, wish you all luck, wish you all everything your heart desires. So I pray with all things, with all my videos, you all might keep watching, keep in touch, and always watch some more. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.